YouTube Buzzik going the Goat House is back. Bold predictions sent in by you guys through our Twitter, doing this video every single Thursday. If you want to get involved, make sure you follow our Twitter. I send out a tweet every Thursday afternoon, early afternoon, and you guys reply to it with some bold takes. Got some good ones this week and that I'll react to. We got Thursday Night Football tonight. We'll be talking live on Twitter during that, like we always are. So make sure you check us out on Twitter. Very important. A lot going on your screen right now. Some important things. Picks League, GLD Shop, who's supplying the chains, the NFL pendants. They got some sick stuff over there. So there's a link pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for their site. Use our code GOAT if you're interested there. So check it all out. Let's get on to the bold takes. First one. We got about 12 this week. Some good ones. I'm Ran. JPP gets a sack before away. So Jason Pierre-Paul just signed by the Ravens. Gets a sack before Odafe away, who had a pretty damn good rookie year last year. And I'm actually going to say, this isn't too bold. I'm going to say it's happening. And I'm going to get even more specific. I'm going to say it's not even, neither are getting a sack this week, but I think it'll happen in the near future, and it'll be JPP, the first one to get it. If you were to tell me a sack's going to happen this week between these two guys, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but a sack's going to happen. For sure, I'd say probably away. Maybe JPP not in that right shape yet. So maybe if it's going to be this week, it's more likely away. But I'm going to say my prediction doesn't happen quite yet, but when it does happen, it's JPP there. So that's an interesting one. Let's see the next one from Calm Francis. Davis Mills proves he still has the Chargers number from last year, beats the Chargers by multiple scores again. So if you remember, the Texans really gave it to the Chargers last year towards the end of the year, which was tough because the Chargers, when it came to that last game of the year, they needed to win to get in against the Raiders, and that was tough, losing to the Texans by a good amount too. So that's an interesting one. Davis Mills did play well against the Chargers last year, very well. But if you remember that game, and the run mainly opened up. It mainly was the run that opened up the pass. The Chargers were absolutely god-awful stopping a run last year. And Burkhead, if I'm not mistaken, ran all over them, and that kind of opened up the passing game. And Mills played very, very well. So the problem with that this year, well, you could say the Chargers are beat up. The run defense is still not good. So it could happen again, where the running game gets going, guy like Pierce and Burkhead, whatever, and then Mills gets going as well, and they win by double digits. It's definitely possible. I think the Chargers' run D is a little bit better this year. They are beat up, but if you remember that game, the Texans ran the ball a ton in that game to get things going, and they're not running that much right now. I don't know what it is. They're making things more difficult for Davis Mills. They're insisting on him throwing a ton, and it's becoming predictable, and it's very tough. So I don't really trust the Texans to run the ball the amount of time. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll figure it out. Like, hey, it's week 4. We learned our lesson. We just watched the film on the Chargers. They can't stop the run still. They're really beat up. So let's freaking run the football and win this damn game. It's possible. I just don't fully trust them to do that. I don't know what the difference was last year, this year. With going away from the run and insisting on Mills. It really feels like, I said it before, it really feels like to me they're purposely putting Mills in a tough situation, like predictable passing situations, to test him, to see if he's the guy of the future. They need a quarterback because they're about to be picking, obviously, twice in the first round this upcoming year. So basically, for this one to happen, Mills has to have a pretty good game, and they beat the Chargers by multiple scores again. I'm not going to say piping. I'm going to say hot. I won't go piping. I'm going to say it's pretty hot, though. But it is a good one. It's a very good one there. Next up, I changed the way I did this. It's a lot easier. The graphics guy doesn't have to whip together a bunch of graphics here. Just scroll through the Twitter. How do we not think of this before? But Ben Smith. Browns win 8 games before Watson comes back. So before that Texans game, I ran through the schedule because I saw this one. I thought it was a good one. I ran through the schedule, and they already have 2 wins. I got around 7, like 6. I think most people would predict. Maybe some people predict 5, but because it is kind of a tough schedule. 6, 7. So 8's not. I feel pretty good about that 6 or 7. But so 8 is. Well, yeah, I think I kind of came up with that 7 was the max because I had them going on a win streak at one point. They play some though, like at Miami, at Buffalo, and they have Tampa already for the Texans. So they have a tough schedule. So 8 is the absolute max. That is a great situation for the Browns. I don't think it's happening. It is possible, but I kind of came up with 7 was like realistic, but the top end at the same time. I'm gonna say it's hot, and that's tough because if you said 7. I probably wouldn't even went warm. I probably went realistic. So the difference between 7 and 8, one game, but it feels a lot greater than that just because of the toughness of the schedule, and they can't slip up, against the teams they should beat. They slipped up against the Jets. So yeah, I think 8's pretty hot there. So we'll see. But that's an interesting one to think about there. And what's going to happen when Deshaun Watson comes back? How good is he going to look? We're all waiting to see there. A lot of us maybe are waiting to see. Luke J. Jaguars will win the division. +1 playoff game, so this is kind of this is a season bold prediction here. Win the division. I'd say it's pretty realistic. I think between them, the Colts, the Titans, I think it's kind of even chances right now. The Jags look better than those teams, but those are experienced teams. They'll kind of figure it out. So I think it's pretty even across the board on at this moment the chances to win a division. But win a division. +1 playoff game. So we go from realistic to, well, if they win the division, they're in the playoffs. So it kind of stays realistic still, but they got to win that playoff game. That's a good one. It's good. You're stumping me here. So win the division, I think is realistic. Do I go warm? Win the division and win a playoff game. I actually almost want to go up 2 spots. I'm gonna go hot. I think. Again, the Colts and the Titans have just as good of a shot to win the division, make the playoffs there. So if they do that, and then we don't even get to that second part, the Jags winning the playoff game. But I think by that time, there's such a tough game plan right now, new staff, really that defense. You don't know what that defense is throwing at you. I think down the stretch of the season, like into the playoffs, I think there's going to be I know there will be. It doesn't mean they won't be good anymore, but there will be a much better game plan for that team. So winning division and winning the playoff game. I like where the Jags are at. I like where they're heading. I think that's kind of hot. I almost went warm there, but it is early in the season still. So a lot of these are good. It makes me think a little bit. Griggs, season-long one, he says. We're going to have to cut off his name here. But if the Eagles don't make the NFC Championship game, regardless of how good Jalen Hurts is this season, they make a change at QB in the offseason. Very, very interesting one here because if they don't make the NFC, so they have to make the NFC Championship game for them to be like, Hurts is the guy. And it's interesting, too, because less than a year ago, we're down the stretch. Even in the playoff game against the Bucs, there were people calling for Minshew. They may try to hide that, they may not admit it, but they were. There was a lot of, not all the fans, not even close, but there were people calling for Minshew less than a year ago. And in less than a year ago, it was, all right, this is kind of it for Hurts. We're loading up on draft picks for the future. We're getting ourselves in position to take that quarterback. And now all of a sudden Hurts looks great. He's the guy. As season starts rolling, does a game plan kind of factor come out, and then he doesn't look as good anymore? There's a lot of scenarios here, but he looks really good right now. If they don't make the NFC Championship game, regardless of how good Jalen Hurts this season, they make a change at quarterback in the offseason. I'm going to say I found a loophole in that one. I'm going to call it piping. Well, first off, so if they're a game short on the NFC Championship game, so that's what he's saying. They're not going to make a change. So I'm going to say it's piping anyways. But it is interesting because maybe they want to move up and take a quarterback they really, really like. But the loophole I also found was they make a change at the quarterback at quarterback in the offseason. I think even if they do draft one in the first round, I still think there's a good shot that Hurts is still the starter. Even if he starts to struggle and they come up short in the playoffs and they draft a quarterback in the first round, maybe they trade up for that quarterback, I still think there's a shot that Hurts, there is no change. They add a quarterback, but there is no change. So that's why multiple reasons there. I find it piping. To me, my take on it overall, it's hard to see him taking a major step down where he's playing right now because he's playing so well. But game plans, it's the same. It happens to every team every year. Game plans and film, more and more start to come out. So, but at the same, so he might not play as good as he's playing right now, but I don't think it's a major drop off. So for me, for Jalen Hurts not to be the starting quarterback next year, I think they probably got to miss the playoffs and not win the division. Possibly if they just look really bad at the end of the year, kind of like the Cardinals situation where they look very bad at the end of the year, but because the body of work, what they did early in, they're still in the playoffs, and they're just underwhelming, disappointing at the end of the year in that playoff game, and he just struggles, and maybe that's the way he gets replaced. I just don't see it happening though. I think that's just me on my take on what it would take, if it makes sense. Wolves Nation. Joe Burrow won't get sacked once during tonight's match against the Dolphins. That's an interesting one, too. I picked the Bengals, just kind of a gut feeling, and at home, primetime at home. Dolphins had a weird week of practice and pretty beat up at the same time. There was a reason, but the reason for me to argue the Dolphins is Burrow should be under a lot of pressure still with that Dolphins blitz. So it's hard to imagine he won't get sacked, but at the same time, the Dolphins' pressure, like their sacks, kind of been relied on the blitz a little bit, or the blitz creating for the other guys. Phillips doesn't even have a sack. He's been playing pretty well, but he doesn't have a sack yet. And going back to the blitz factor, Joe Burrow usually pretty damn good against the blitz. So maybe he's getting the ball out quick enough. This is a weird one because I think this is a good one. It's good and weird at the same time because I'm stumped right now. I think I would instantly go piping for this, but for some reason I kind of can see it. Like Burrow just having a really good night. Those receivers getting separation early against that Dolphins man coverage. He's gonna get sacked. He's gonna get sacked though. I think it's less than what people think. I kind of wish he went with only get sacked once or two times or less, because that would have been I almost would have said it's happening, a realistic, complete opposite of piping hot, but he's got to get sacked once. He's got to. So interesting to think about, though. I don't think he'll be, that's why it's interesting. I don't think he'll be, I could be wrong, too. I could very well see the Dolphins getting after him, but I don't think he'll be sacked as much as maybe people think, but we'll see. Should be a fun game tonight. Justin Fields and the Bears get their shit together and make the playoffs. It's just a season one, obviously. Well, it's funny too because right now the Bears are 2-1, so I don't know what getting their shit together would be, but they are looking a little disappointing offensively in the pass game. That's where Justin Fields comes into play. So he gets shit together and they actually make the playoffs. They are starting at 2-1 right now. I'm actually going to go piping on this one, too. Kind of take a look at the Bears' schedule and what's going on with the Bears. And it's kind of there, too. If you talk to Bears fans right now, and like he said, Justin Fields and the Bears get their shit together. They're 2-1, but it almost feels like they don't have their shit together. That's kind of the theme. I live in Chicago, too, so I talk to a lot of people that are Bears fans. That's kind of the thing right now. Like, hey, we're finding ways to win, but, man, it's not really looking pretty. That's kind of how it kind of seems to be a common take. So they need to get their shit together completely to make the playoffs, even though they're 2-1. But at the same time, to continue finding ways to win, they're going to have to figure out the passing game. They're going to have to be able to pass the ball. And there's a lot tougher stretch of the schedule coming up pretty much the rest of the year. I mean, the early portion was pretty good for them. There's some winnable games here and there, but I mean, you're going to play the Packers again, the Vikings twice. Maybe they can sneak one there, but the Lions twice isn't, you're not like guaranteed to get one of those anymore. So, and there's some tough games in there. So, I think, it's kind of the early season, the rest of the season thing. Like they're finding ways to win now when they're just squeaking by and they have some bad play, specifically in the passing game. It's something that's going to catch up to them. Where not only is it going to have to be better, it's going to have to be a lot better, and I'm not really trusting it right now, so that's why I think it's piping. I just don't see them making the playoffs, especially looking at the rest of the schedule there. And there's maybe the NFC's a little tougher than we thought because maybe there's two NFC East teams that we're looking like they could be in the playoffs now, and The Lions are battling maybe the Bears, and they look kind of, even though they're 1-2, they kind of look better than them right now. So, yeah, but then again, I guess the AFC South, those teams like the Panthers and the Saints aren't really looking. It's still early, looking great. Maybe the Niners and the Cardinals aren't looking great. So maybe that opens up spots. So who knows there? But yeah, I think they're going to go on a losing streak at some point this year. The Bears. That's kind of my feeling there. So we'll see though. They're going to have to get their shit together. Passing game specifically. Russell Wilson will finally start cooking and throw for 300-plus yards and 3+ touchdowns in a win against the Raiders. And Russ hasn't been cooking. He's been struggling. I actually think he's been struggling maybe more than some people think. He's, doesn't want to move out of the pocket, doesn't want to get, sometimes he does, but doesn't want to get rid of the ball, kind of holds the ball a little bit, kind of off target on throws. But coming off that injury last year, not really looking 100% right when he came back. I think it could make sense that it would take a little bit maybe to get going. And they played some tough defenses. Well, the Seahawks, I guess, really aren't the toughest defense, but that was some week 1 things. But Texans defense looks pretty solid. And then in week 3, the 49ers defense is very solid. The Raiders have been struggling. Yeah, I guess this is pretty specific. I wish it was 250-plus yards and 3+ touchdowns, and I would say it's happening. I'm going to say realistic. I wish it was 250 and 3 or 250 and 2+ touchdowns. I would definitely say it's happening. I could see this happening too. I got a feeling really steps up this week. Russell Wilson maybe doesn't play outstanding, but really steps up. They get something going. A lot of people picking the Raiders. Raiders are favored too. I still like the Broncos in this game. I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing here. I think I think people are banking on Raiders are due for a win. Russell Wilson off the offense of Denver can't get anything going, so the Raiders are going to win. But I think what they don't realize is the Raiders are really struggling for a reason, and I think the Broncos offense could step up against a struggling defense or struggling team in the Raiders. So I'm going to say it's pretty realistic, actually, which maybe is a little bold because Russell Wilson hasn't really been close to playing well quite yet. So we'll see. But kind of feeling it. Next up, K1 since day one. Greg Dortch there we go. Greg Dortch will be top 8 in receiving yards this weekend with A.J. Green out and J.C. Horn matched up at Hollywood. It's an interesting one because Greg Dortch really has to step up, and he kind of did last week. He had a good production, speedy receiver, obviously pretty damn good from the slot. And that could be the key, working from the slot because the Panthers secondary has been pretty solid. Their outside corners, Jeremy Chin at the safety position doing his thing in the box. So that could be the key is using Dortch there. So I actually could see this. Top 8, pretty specific. Top 8 in receiving yards. It's a lot of that's where it's tough though because there's a lot of receivers that just tear it up every week. Maybe it's bold of me to say warm. I mean, maybe most people would go hot. I'm going to go warm because that could be the key. Dortch actually could be the key. He's been looking pretty good. I was very high on him out of college, and I was like, thought I missed on that one. It wasn't like a big one where I was like, I had him in the first round, but it was like, a day 3 guy that I'm like, this guy's going to be way better than people think. I'm like, I think I missed on that one. Not a big deal, but he looked pretty good. He's a good fit in the Cardinals offense, so we'll see. So I think he could be the key, and he has a good opportunity. I do like the way the Panthers' defense secondary matches up with the Cardinals-style offense, though, where they can really slow them down. So that's I can play both sides. That's an interesting one to think about, though. CG Rob, or Rab, I think it's Rob. Only bird team winning in week 4 are the Cardinals. So another Cardinals one here. Only bird team. So there's 5 bird teams. They're all underdogs except for the Eagles. All of them underdogs except for the Eagles. So basically, one underdog wins. It's the Cardinals. So that means the favorite Eagles lose as well. Eagles could lose, but then the chances of the Cardinals being the only, it could happen, honestly. Falcons got to lose to the Browns, kind of going through Ravens, Bills. Seahawks, Lions. This is a good one because it's like one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I mean, so for this to happen, you want all of them to lose basically besides the Cardinals. So a lot of them are supposed to. They're all underdogs except for the Eagles, but they're playing a tough Jags team who they're tough right now. So they could lose as well. But then the Cardinals got to pull it off against the Panthers, which they could. So when you say it like that, it's like it's kind of realistic, but so much specifics need to happen. Like you need the Eagles to get upset. You need none of the upsets to happen out of the other games. And you need the Cardinals to pull off the win against the Panthers. So when you put it like that, it sounds a lot tougher. So I'm going to say hot. I'm going to say this specific scenario with the Bird teams does not happen. Like I can see that, if the Eagles lose, but then I can see the scenario the Cardinals also lose, or the Eagles lose, the Cardinals win. One of those other underdogs probably going to win, or the Eagles can just win because they're favored. They're for a reason. They're a really good team, so that just blows it all up. So it's an interesting one to think about there for sure. Like a lot of these here, but. Next from KC fan, the Panthers will fire Matt Rhule if they lose this game Sunday. I'm going to say piping, actually, because they beat the Saints last week. That really helped his job. Division rival game. They look like maybe they're getting something going. They ran the ball more. They were more effective there. The defense played a lot better than what it did a couple weeks before that. The 2 games before that, I should say. So maybe it was just early season stuff, and they're just getting going now. So he definitely bought himself some time with that Saints win, and they're going to kind of trust the process because they know as good as anyone. Last year they started 3-0. People thought the Panthers were great. Sam Darnold was great. It's just early season stuff. Once the teams start going and they stay the same, then the season kind of settles itself, I suppose. So they know that the early season, as much as anyone, they know the early season stuff doesn't really matter. So maybe they still believe that they can get things going here. And they kind of said they're going to be patient. That kind of came out this past week, that they're going to be patient with Matt Rhule. So I don't think they're going to fire him. I still think there's a decent shot that he's the first head coach fired. He could be. I just don't think it's yet. I think that's pretty piping for it to be this soon. So that's why I'm going piping. And then we got one more here, and it's from Boiler Up. Bills and Chiefs both take L's. So the Bills and the Chiefs both have to lose. I have the Chiefs losing, and I feel it could blow up my face because it easily could, because the Chiefs are a good team. They can overcome the matchup because they have superstar talent. They're a very good team with experience. But I really like the Bucs at home. It sounds like it's going to be played in Tampa. I like the matchup. For the Bucs, they play good defense. They stop the run. Their pass defense looks like top 2 in football right now, probably 1. And their offense hasn't got going yet, but they've played all very, very, very good defenses. They can get going against the Chiefs. So I am predicting the Chiefs to lose. But then the Bills, I don't have the Bills losing, but they're playing the Ravens. So both these teams losing, you need 2 things to happen here. And you need 2 upsets because technically the Chiefs are favored. We know the Bills are favored. But I still think it's kind of... I don't know if I want to go realistic. It is realistic. I don't know if I want to go realistic or warm on this one because I'm pretty confident with both. I don't know why. I shouldn't be based on how the first 3 weeks, but it's the first 3 weeks. That's what happens. But upsets happen, things like that. But I'm pretty confident with my Bills and Bucs pick. Like both those happening. I think there's a decent chance I'm wrong on one. I don't think I'm wrong on both though. But I think it's pretty realistic at the same time. I'm going to say warm because it's pretty realistic, though, at the same time. I'm pretty confident with the Bills because they are going to score on the Ravens. The Ravens are on an adjustment period with their defense. They're struggling. The Bills will score a lot on the Ravens. The Ravens have been very good offensively. They haven't really been able to get the running backs going, though. And the Bills, very good defense through 3 weeks. They even stopped the Dolphins, even though they lost. So the matchup where I trust the Bills' offense more than the Ravens' offense, and I definitely trust the Bills' defense more than the Ravens' defense. So both of those happening may be a little warm, even though it's realistic. That's why I went warm. I almost went realistic. A lot of these made me think. Those are the ones I love there. I really got to think about it. Like, man, this could happen. It's kind of realistic, but it's hot at the same time. Those are the ones I love there. So, yeah, that wraps up the bold prediction for week 4. Thank you for playing along. I know there's a lot of comments. I kind of skimmed through all of them. I apologize if I'm missing yours or not using it. But we do this every single week. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. A lot more going on there as well. So if you don't have a Twitter, I recommend making it. Subscribe to notifications on because we have full NFL coverage here. Links for the GLD shop and picks leagues pinned in the comments along with other important links there. So check it out. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.